Okay, so before we hop into your session, I'm just going to go over a couple things. I did pull you some oracle cards. We're not going to go over them in the session, but I will send you pictures and their guidebook descriptions because that'll be a deeper level of messaging. And then I asked each one of your chakras what kind of crystals would help with your healing and growth. And I built you a crystal grid, which I'll send you pictures of afterwards as well. And then I will get the replay to you either today or tomorrow, depending on when it finishes processing. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So for the notes that you left me here, and we're also going to talk about why you don't like technology, because now that makes sense with the things
Okay.
itself is going to relate to you over here. So I'm going to make a note about that. Okay. So the notes that you left me is focusing on soul mission, spiritual gifts, releasing any energetic cords of trauma or PTSD from different incarnations. How can we hear our higher self and intuition more clearly, or ways to connect outside of meditation because we're kind of struggling in that area a little bit.
Mhm.
If we do get to it today, relationship with brother, mother, and releasing energy there, or career path, business path. So we'll see what we can fit into one out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I just put everything in, so whatever comes through, it'll come through. Make it work.
Oh, I love that. I love when people are like thorough and leave a lot of notes because it does help with the session. And I do a lot of channeling before I even get on the session. So it gives me a little bit more direction and clarity. So I thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So with your soul mission, your higher self wants me to make sure that I tell you this beforehand. Just because we signed up to do something doesn't mean that we have to. You have free will. Okay.
Okay.
And at any time in your journey, you can say, I thought I wanted to do this, but maybe I don't. Or maybe this thing over here is really interesting me and I want to go down this path. So,
Mhm.
what we're about to discuss is an option.
Okay.
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 If
I don't
you
know if I should be worried or not, but
No,
okay.
no, no. It's something super fun and cool and
Okay.
funky fresh. Okay, we're gonna love it.
Okay.
However, sometimes there's other things that pique our interest in life,
Mhm.
and then we get stuck in these holes and we say,
Mhm.
"Oh no, this is what I have to do because this is my soul mission." When you're coming from the perspective of I'm the creator of my reality, and just because I said something before doesn't mean that I can't change my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. And some things are just meant for specific chapters. I had a doggy daycare for like 7 years. And then one day I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But
And I
that was
think that's
part
what,
of my soul mission during that time
yeah.
to do that.
I think that's what I struggle with is because like I feel like once I start something, I'm supposed to like do that for, the
Ever.
rest of my life. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I feel like a failure if I quit or
Mhm.
don't continue. So I think that's like part of my struggle sometimes with certain things that I start to do.
We need to finish it to completion.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's probably why your higher self was like, make sure you tell her this so she doesn't get stuck in that hole. Okay. Now, when we talk about soul mission and what we're supposed to be doing here, before we get into that, what do you want to be doing here?
I don't honestly. I've gotten to a point where I don't know anymore. Like when I originally, like from when I was little and up until now, like I wanted to do something in a medical field. I mean, like every little kid like says they want to be a doctor or something like that.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. Once I got older, I realized the extent of being a doctor. And then
Mhm.
I originally wanted to be a pediatric doctor at that, but I realized I was too sensitive for that.
Yeah.
And so then once I got into school and I mean, not school, but once I got into high school and I got more into sports, then I realized there was things like sports medicine. And
Mhm.
so I went in that direction. And then and so I went to school, got my degree in exercise science. And my original plan was to be a physical therapist, but I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do in that. And I still like it, but now it's like I'm not sure. I do not know what my passion is anymore. And then
Mm.
even before that, I went to culinary school, and I wanted to get into that, and I still like cooking, but I don't know if that's really something I'm supposed to do career wise anymore.
Got it.
So now I kind of feel like I'm just all over the place. I don't know where to start anymore. Like I feel like, I mean, a lot of stuff has happened, and I just feel like I just kind of lost my passion. I really don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I like. I don't know what's going to make me happy or any of that stuff. I don't even know what happiness is at
Got
this
it.
point.
Yes. Okay. So that's probably why your higher self wanted me to talk to you about this before we get into your past incarnation of spiritual gifts here. Because if you are going to go down this path that she's about to relate to you, not that it's going to quote unquote take a while to do that, but it's very kind of like on the fringe and outside of like what you're used to doing or probably being involved in. And sometimes in 3D tangible land, like things like that take a while to process and get to. And
Yeah.
so she is saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with playing around in the 3D realms and not knowing exactly what we want to do, and also having kind of these stepping stones while we're figuring out what does really make us passionate. And it also sounds like you're a multi-passionalite, which is somebody who gets really bored really easily and needs to do a million billion different things because
Yeah.
you really enjoy learning. You love knowledge. You love just expanding yourself consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I have like a lot of interest. And it's like there's a lot of things I want to do. And it's like some things I'm not sure if I should really do that. And a lot of things require me to either go back to school or things I should have started when I was really young. And at this point I'm in my 30s. So it's like, like I don't know if I really should be starting things like that, and then it took me up until now to even realize that I possibly have ADHD, which is probably why I get bored a little bit easier sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure.
Yes. Okay. Which is probably also combating against our need to complete things or feeling guilty if we
Yeah.
don't do that. And
Yeah.
then also with the cultural of our society or even family or all these things saying like, oh my God, you're 30 and you don't have like a like a whatever, like a solid path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So if this is something, before I get into it, if this is something that is going to take us a little while to figure out and download and take steps towards, what in the meantime are you working towards right now? Just for like 3D, pay my bills, job, what are we doing in those areas?
Right now I'm not working
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. And so, but I mean, aside from that, it's like I right now I think I've been on this thing where I'm trying to, because I feel like my biggest block is like my traumas and things that I've experienced. I've been trying to heal myself, thinking that that's going to, give me the motivation to get to wherever I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I literally feel stuck like I literally feel stuck. Like I don't know what to do. Like like part of the reason why I'm not working is because I had, a loss in my family and
I'm
that
sorry.
took a toll on me.
Yeah.
And I had to go through that grieving process. And in essence, I'm still going through it, but I'm better than I was initially.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And in between that time, I lost my job, lost a boyfriend, lost a lot of things.
Okay, a lot of stuff going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about, do you like animals? Have you ever thought about working with animals?
Oh yeah, I got a dog.
Okay.
We have
Okay.
issues. Yeah, I got my dog.
And
Actually,
not necessarily for the long term, but from what I read in your energy field right now is it's really triggering for me to be around people,
yes.
especially like 3D people.
Yeah. And what's weird is that I feel like it's probably always been there, but it's gotten to that point more recently and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
especially since the passing of my aunt and
Sure, you're going
things.
to be more hypersensitive. Your central nervous system is probably really activated, and we're just have a lot of emotions at the surface. It's a lot to process through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Higher self is saying, not that you have to do this, but if you found something, maybe working with animals, animals are very healing and you don't have to, and they don't talk to you like people do.
Sometimes I wish it would, but yeah.
Well, yes, but like the more the negative sides of
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have to deal with that as much. I worked around animals for a long time before I figured out what I wanted to do because it was healthier for my central nervous system.
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What comes up when you hear that?
As far as like being around animals. Um, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because at one point I actually like worked for somebody and I was like her personal dog walker
Mm-hmm.
and a personal pet sitter and stuff. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, because I'd rather be around animals, to be honest with you, than people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even my own family, I'm struggling with even being around them sometimes.
Yeah.
But
We're just in a sensitive place right now.
yeah, I just don't know where to start. I mean, like, as far like, if that's, I'm not, if I'm understanding your question, like, I don't know where to go with that. Like, as far as like, should I just go to like a shelter, like work at a shelter, like a pet shop? Is that the kind of things that you mean?
Yeah, there, or we could find maybe, I don't know exactly, you don't have to tell me where you live, but maybe there's a animal sanctuary, or there is a horse farm, or
Okay.
there's a lot of different options, but just kind of looking to see what's out there. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you like making your own schedule, there's people that do pet sitting for full time or dog walking for full time. That's something that would take a lot of legwork on your end as far as
Yeah.
like, there's also companies that you can partner with, like Rover or
Mm-hmm.
care.com. Like there's a lot of workarounds that you could get there, or
Mm-hmm.
vet, or working at a vet.
Okay.
I Not that you have to do that, but it would probably be very healing for your central nervous system to kind of reset to a good homeostasis.
Okay.
Yeah, just, and your higher self is saying like, hey, it's okay to have stepping stones. Like we're so inundated and programmed with like, oh, you have to figure out what you're doing forever. What if that's not what your life is going to look like though?
Mm-hmm.
What if your life is going to ebb and flow consistently with the things that you do? I have a life like that where I'm just doing new things like all the time, and it is a little disconcerting because it's like, oh, we never have like this one solid path. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's also led me to being able to work for myself
Mm-hmm.
and having complete like freedom and liberation. But I also had to lean into those facets of myself and not berate and shame and guilt myself, and also let go of all these other people and their judgments and their perceptions and the perceptions of myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what comes up when you hear that?
Um, like it makes sense because like, like I just gotten to a point where I just been more aware where like, because like you said, like we're like I feel like we're programmed to where like we have to like follow like this one thing
Mm-hmm.
and like that's all we need to be doing. You know what I mean? Or even if we have like little side things, it's like, like we have to have like this main thing.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like I'm like part of me deep down feels like I'm not meant to do just one thing.
Yeah, that's not
You
your archetype. Your archetype is I'm very expansive.
Yeah, but at the same time it's like it's a little like overwhelming like
Mhm.
because it's like
All the
like okay,
options.
yeah, there's too
Yeah.
many options and I'm barely at a point where I even know how to organize my own life right now, so it's
Yeah.
like you know what I mean, like how do I even get to that point? It's like I at least need to start at least somewhere with like one thing and
Yes.
then progress, and I feel like I'm having a hard time making that first step, in whatever direction I need to go in, and because I don't, I somewhat feel like paralyzed. I don't want to, say that, like, but
No, I
I
know what you
almost
mean.
feel paralyzed where it's like I just want to stay in this one spot because it's like if I go out there, then I feel like just too many things happen, you
Yeah,
know.
brain decision paralysis.
Yes. Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
for the word.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why your higher self is saying, hey, we might need to take another stepping stone position, if you will, just for the 3D tangible human version of us to do the things that we need to do. And that's okay. It's
Mhm.
not going to be your permanent, and it's not going to be forever. You know that too, like deep down, like, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, I don't want to waste my time and energy here. and like doing something, right? But that's where she's coming in. She's like, hey, maybe we need something to actually, like, the stepping stone is actually going to heal us. One is going to give us safety and security with our finances and just feeling like, okay, I can breathe for a second, right? But then that's why she was saying we need to find some type of 3D job that's in a little bit more congruence with where our energy field is at right now. And that's why she suggested animals, but then also not beating yourself up with needing to go do that, because that's going to be healing for you, not a punishment or you going down the wrong path or you getting stuck in that position. No, that's for me. And kind of flipping the perspective of like empowerment for self instead of like, oh no, this is just another dead end. Okay.
I feel like I've already been there, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, like I want to try to like get into like the direction I need to get into. And I feel like I've already been in the spots where like I've already been at jobs that I hate, you know, deep down, and not wanting to be there, not wanting to be around the people there. You know what I mean? I think that's why I feel stuck right now, because it's like I don't want to go back to that.
Yes. Okay. So that's where we need to make a pivot to, because when we are looking for future positions, but we are counterbalancing that with looking at all the things we hated of the past, what are we going to get more of? Because we're placing energy and intention on all the things we used to hate.
More things we hate.
We'll get more jobs that we hate because that's what we're placing energy and intention on. So this is what we can do to solve that. Okay. So I was in a lot of jobs. I've had a million different jobs and I hated almost every single one of them. Okay. And I said, you know what? These must be serving me for some type of reason. Like, because I'm a multi-passionate, like I soul contracted to have these for some reason. And a couple years went by. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh, I had to pick up certain tools and resources from these jobs to ultimately help me with the thing that I want to be doing. Like my coaching practice right now, my spiritual practice, I'm like, oh, that's why I needed all these things. So your higher self said, if we can take all those jobs that we've had in the past and say, how did this benefit me? How did this help me grow and evolve? What tools and resources did I pick up from here? Because there's a reason that you were in those. And if you're a multi-passionate, most often what ends up happening is you start your own business because you can't work for other people. Like you cannot be micromanaged. We can't be answering to people. Like, you're very intelligent too. So it's like you're not gonna, all the things. So we need to look at all those positions you had in the past and say, how did this benefit me to where I am going? Because that's putting a positive spin. Now we're feeding into this timeline of, oh, well, of course I had to do this. All of this was serving me because it's going to help me get to where I'm supposed to be going. Now we're doing positive energy forward instead of, oh my God, I don't want to be in a job that I hate. And thinking about all of those past memories and experiences. Okay. What comes up when you hear that?
I mean, I always felt like there was a reason for all of my jobs. Because in most of them, most of the jobs that I've had, they either pertain to what I like to do or they pertain to what I actually went to school for anyway. So it made sense. Like, like if I had like a cooking job, so I worked at restaurants, you know what I mean? And I even got to a point where I even had to manage people. That didn't work out very well. But but
it's still in a position of leadership, which is teaching you.
Yeah, I don't know how good it's teaching me, but yeah. But yeah, so and I obviously, within that, like I learned organization skills a little bit. Obviously, did pertain to my life, but I learned those things, and then I was like a physical therapy aide at one point. So that makes sense. So dealing with people and trying to help them, with their function, get back into functioning, into society and stuff like that. So that made a lot of sense. And then I worked with animals, so that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
But the problem, the issue, especially where I am now, the issue that I had with my last jobs, because is that it seemed like a lot of my PTSD symptoms sort of creeped in And and I think I started lashing out, which caused me to lose a lot of my jobs, inevitably. And so part of me why I'm not working is because I don't trust myself to be out there a little bit. I trust myself to a degree, but I don't trust myself in a sense where I feel like, okay, I really can't be around people because I can't just be working at jobs and then just being there and getting fired all over the place. It's like, what's the point of that?
That's probably why your higher self was like, hey, why don't we go work with some animals so we can kind of like tiptoe our way back into the workforce and be not talking to a lot of people so that we can learn to trust ourselves again within the workplace.
Okay.
Like kind of meeting halfway.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about what came up in your field. This is going to be very ethereal, esoteric, very not like a tangible 3D thing. So higher self is like, hey, let's not get overwhelmed when we hear this of like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I have to do it right now. Okay. This is stuff that's going to take a little while to like download and for you to figure out how to do it, but I'm going to talk to you about it. Okay. So when I went into your energy field, I saw a bunch of fairies.
Oops. Oops. Wait.
Oh, you're good. Hold on. There you go.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay. I saw a bunch of fairies. What's your connection with fairies right now?
I can't talk to fairies or I don't see fairies, but I felt, especially recently, I felt like I've had a strong connection with fairies. Don't understand it because like at one point, like between the last couple of years, I suddenly found myself watching all the Tinkerbell movies on Disney Plus and stuff like that. And then like even like watching certain tarot readers talk about fairies and stuff like that and having a connection with that. So that's the only thing that I feel connected with. Like I'm not sure on a soul level or energetic level, what that means, but I just feel like I know that there's a connection there somewhere. Can't explain it.
We're about to get into it.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into it. Okay. You also look like a fairy. Like you have the facial like bone structuring. As soon as you turn your camera on, I was like, oh, this is about to make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Okay. So in all of that you were experiencing was leading up to you about to hear this.
Okay.
It was like getting you ready.
Okay.
Okay. So I saw a bunch of fairies and then I started walking around with them and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen y'all in forever because I have fairy facets of myself as well. And so I was talking to them and then they took me to what's known as the fairy world tree. And this is the tree where it's like it's a place where if you imagine like all these different trains that are coming to, it's like a train hub, but it's like a tree. And so all of the fairies from all the different dimensions like meet at this one tree. It has all these different paths into all these different planes. Okay. So it's like this big meeting house of like all of the different ones. Okay.
Okay.
So the persons who have access to this tree are fairies themselves.
Okay.
Okay. So when I went inside of it, I said, I was talking to him. I said, oh, I'm here with Ray. And they're like, oh, we know who she is. And I said, oh, do you? And they said, yes. And they said that, okay, this is a different incarnation of yours. Okay. But you still are part Fae because you're one and the same soul. Okay. So when I asked about you and asked if I could speak to you, the fairies that were there told me that you were a space-time fairy. There are a lot of different types of fairies. There's like water fairies, fire fairies, woodland fairies, a bunch of different types. They said, you're a space-time fairy. And I said, oh, interesting. And they also called you a converger. Okay, so I'm going to explain that. Okay. So I asked if I could actually just speak to this different incarnation of you. And then she came from the tree and her name is Cypress, like a tree. Okay. And she
like that.
Yeah, it was a really cool name. I liked it. It was kind of like not like masculine almost, but kind of like masculine energy. I was like, okay, cool, 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 right?
It fits me. It fits me. I have a lot of masculine energy,
Yeah.
so it fits me.
Yeah, it was interesting when she told me. I was like, okay, cool. So she's a very old fairy. She's a lot older than me in my fairy form. And not old though. Like, yes, old, but she doesn't look old. She still looks like very, very young, but she has a lot of time under her belt, if you will. And she said that the space-time fairies, these convergers, help people remember that they are fairies, specifically space-time fairies. She said they help each other find one another. And I'm going to talk to you about where your role comes in here, okay? She said what the fairies generally are helping persons with. She said, we will never be whole until we learn to walk alongside the plants, animals, fungi, trees, and humans as peers instead of a tier system. So humans see themselves up here and everything underneath below them. And she's like, that's not how it works. She said, we're all supposed to be working in unison with one another. That's probably also why you don't like technology.
Okay.
Because you're more of the earth. And you're like, this stuff is foreign. Okay. I don't like it.
It does feel foreign, to be honest with you. Like, even though I know how to use it, it does feel foreign to me sometimes.
Yeah. You're like, I come from a different time and space where we didn't have all this stuff. Okay. So a lot of people have forgotten that they're fairies to begin with and have forgotten the culture and forgotten their heritages. Also, which we're going to talk about in a minute, a lot of them are afraid of persecution because a lot of them were hunted throughout time and history. And so people in the collective consciousness right now have these archetypes within themselves of these fairy history, right? And these gifts and these abilities that have to do with them being fairies, but they've locked that information deep down within them and don't have access to it anymore because of the fear, because of the anxiety. Okay. So she was saying that you're part of this fairy team where you can actually help reawaken and unlock that within other people so they recognize that they're fairies as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to get into that. Okay. So she said there's lots of different types of fairies, but collectively, all of them together are stewards of relationships with the earth. She said humans have forgotten that they're also Gaia's children. They think that they're something completely separate. And they're like, no, you're just like the plants and the animals and the fungi and everything here too. Okay. She said, you're going to need to go to school. Okay. And go study at the World Fairy Tree with her. She's going to be a mentor to help teach you all of these things and how to do all of these things. Now, I know that we're struggling a little bit with meditation, so we're going to talk about some other ways to do that, okay? So, one, being outside as much as we can. Okay. That's how you connect with fairy energy in the first place. Like, you don't do that being in your home or your apartment or wherever you live. Like, we need to be outside. Okay. Going on hikes, kayaking, walks, going by streams or lakes or oceans. I don't know what the terrain is that you live, but just like being out there. You don't have to always sit in silence for meditation. Have you ever heard of active meditations?
Yeah, I've heard the term. I'm just not sure how it really works.
Active meditations are getting you in the flow state where you can kind of let go of your anxieties and your stress and you're more in the present, more focused in the moment on what you're doing. It allows your brain to relax. Some people do that through dancing or being outside and doing activities, coloring, painting. What are those things for you?
Well, I really don't do that much of any of those. I walk my dog. But besides that, what's ironic is like a family friend actually like bought me some coloring books like a while back.
Okay.
Use them.
Okay.
I've been wanting to, but haven't used them. So maybe that's a sign that I need to start using them.
Probably.
But yeah, like I just don't do nothing. I mean, aside from walking my dog, that's really honestly all I do. Yeah,
that's where the thoughts and the emotions and the PTSD and trauma are just swirling around in our brain and we're not doing anything with that energy. And so it's causing like catastrophizing or causing us to get in fight or flight. And it's kind of just leaving us in circle loops.
Mm-hmm.
So higher self is like, hey, we've got to do some things that help us get more in the present moment and in that flow state. Because that's going to do more for you than sitting with your trauma and PTSD and your memories and the stress and the anxiety, because that's not getting us anywhere. The opposite is okay. So if you keep on doing something and it's not working, then that's not the answer. That's not the key. So if we have been actively, and that's what we're told in spirituality, is like, you got to heal, you got to heal, you got to heal, you got to heal. That's the answer to everything. Okay. Sometimes having fun and being in your joy and finding some peace, that is actually what heals the trauma and the PTSD. You don't actually have to sift through all of that stuff.
The problem is that I don't know what that joy is.
Right. So that's where we have to do some discovery in those areas. And that's probably why all this fairy stuff is coming up too, because sometimes they like to do a carrot and a stick situation of like, oh, you want all this information? Well, this is going to have to be how you're going to go get it.
Okay.
Of like, oh, we got to go spend some time outside and find some fun activities to go to. Because if you want to download esoteric knowledge and wisdom that's outside of this 3D human experience, you have to be able to push all of that stuff aside momentarily and be in the present moment to receive it. So if we're just in this loop, it's not going to come through. It's very difficult to channel when you have an agitated central nervous system and we're just looping. So that's where finding some things that would make us momentarily happy or bring us momentarily some joy is going to allow that information to come through. Okay. What questions do you have about that?
I don't know if it's necessarily a question. I think I just don't know where to start, like, you know, what to do. And like, you know, because I'm not a dancer. You know, I'm not a part of like any like, you know, gym or nothing like that. And half of the stuff I feel like costs money, which is what I don't have at the moment. So I guess I don't know. My issue was starting. Like it's like I just don't know where to start, to be honest with you. And I think that's my biggest frustration right now. Is if I felt like I knew like I had like a strong starting point, like exactly, okay, I should just go do this, or I should go do that and see how this goes, or whatever, then, you know, maybe I would like it would push me, you know, motivate me a little bit more, but I don't know where to start.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll start here then. Okay. Because that's probably why this is coming up as well. So when we are trying to tap into our magic or our multidimensionality or these different facets of self, like you being a fairy, the more that we can get our hands on with those things, the more is going to download in. So what your higher self was suggesting of watching movies or TV shows that have fairies in them, reading books, looking at pictures online or on Pinterest, doing fairy guided meditations, or potentially getting involved in an environmental program yourself, like volunteering, like going to go pick up trash with like a group of persons, or, you know, whatever that looks like, going to a garden and volunteering, because that's going to help you tap back into that energy of yourself. Something that is Fae related is going to be a motivational drive for you, because it's going to make you happy within your soul. It's going to be like, oh yeah, this is like, I love this. This is me. This is the missing part of myself, right? So that could be a really good motivator. What would help me exude more of this fairy energy or feel more of that? What is in relation to that? Because there is a lot that needs to be downloaded into your templates for you to be able to step into this soul mission facet of yourself. The soul mission facet. Okay, so I have an academy that I run. It's called the Quantum Evolution Academy. And I teach people how to connect to their Akashic records and how to heal their inner children and work on their channeling and, you know, all these different things. So your higher self and Cypress were saying that this is something that you could do, but with the fairies in running an academy or courses or a membership or your own business where you help find all the fairies on this earth plane, help reawaken and activate that within them. And then they go out and they teach people how to be stewards of the earth. That's part of the new earth paradigm too, that everybody's moving into, of us being more in unison with Gaia and being a community and a collective and unity, love, and all these different things. That's a big part that you could play as a leader of these different lost fairies out here. I know that sounds very theoretical and big and woo-woo. Okay, I understand how that sounds. But you have that capacity within you, though. Cypress is like, I will get you there if that's something that you want to do. She will teach you how to do it. She will help you figure out how to run a business out of that. When I first thought about the Quantum Evolution Academy, my own, that seemed impossible. And I started going to spend time outside. A lot of time outside with myself and my thoughts, okay? And asking my different timelines to help me. And then all of a sudden I started getting all these ideas and these plans. And then it actually became a reality. And now I'm running that right now. But it started with, you know what? Maybe that would be fun. Maybe that is something that I could do. Maybe I do have that within my reach. Maybe that is what I'm meant to be doing. And then it happened. But at the beginning, I had no idea how that was going to work out. So I know that sounds like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing in my 3D right now. Like, how am I going to do
that? Yeah. I'm like far from even doing anything like that.
Well, you never know, though. You never know, like, how far that is away. That could happen very quickly, too, depending on how open you are to changes and shifts and if this is something that you want to do. And like your higher self said, you don't have to. We probably will have to have a stepping stone job or something in the meantime, just for our like human existence, right? While we're figuring this out. But your higher self and Cypress say, girl, we can get you there if that's what you want to be doing with people, and not to overthink it. And what we need to do on the level that we're at right now is finding things that bring us joy and fun. That's all we need to be doing for our central nervous system and healing to help us get to this next chapter. And one of the things that you can do for that is getting your hands on as many faith related things as you possibly can and really immersing yourself in that. She said, I will give you the next steps after that. Because now you're becoming that version of yourself. You're like, oh yeah, this is me. I do remember. I'm starting to get all these memories. Oh, I can hear Cypress. I can hear my higher self like giving me these steps. Okay, what comes up when you hear that?
I don't know. Like, the funny thing is that like I feel like I feel like I'm meant to do something in a leadership position.
It just, we didn't think it was gonna be this.
I just don't feel confident in being in a leadership.
Because maybe you meant to be in a different type of leadership position where you're helping people figure out their magic and their different incarnations and helping them become stewards of the earth. And maybe you're not meant to be a corporate galley up in here in this matrix or whatever type of leadership. Maybe it's not the leadership that's for you. Maybe it's because you're meant to be doing this other thing over here. A leadership of fun and remembrance.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Right.
I don't know. Like I don't know what to say to that, to be honest with you. It's it's exciting, but it's kind of like daunting at the same time.
Why do you think it's daunting?
Because it's, how do I say this?
Do you think it's daunting because of responsibility, or do you think it's daunting because like, how the heck do I figure this out?
Both.
Okay.
It's like, okay, like how do I even get to that point? And then it's like, you know, like feeling like you have the responsibility of having to, activate people. Granted, I feel like I was meant to do stuff like that, but it's
Uh-huh.
like, like still like having that kind of power and ability and responsibility and stuff, and having to um you know find people or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
and teach them and get them out of like the space that I am in right now, and like put them into where they're supposed to be. It's like feeling responsible that if you can't get there, it's like, okay, then what do I do?
That's also because you're speaking from the version that you are now and not the version that you are going to be a couple chapters from here. Who's like, oh, heck yeah, I'm ready to help everybody reawaken their magic and get them in the position where they're supposed to be. That's because you got a lot of stuff going on in your 3D paradigm right now that you're working through, which that's why your higher self was like, we don't have to figure all this out right now. We're just focused on this chapter. When you get through that over here, you're going to have a completely different perspective about all of this because yeah, it is scary. Like, how the heck am I supposed to do all that? And it is a lot of responsibility. But at the same time, it's not just you. You're not the only one. Okay. Cypress is like, hey, there's a whole team of us over here. Okay. Like, if you want to do this and it brings you joy and happiness and it fulfills that part of your soul mission, do it. If not, they're gonna be all right. If there's going to be other fairies out here to go help them, there's a whole team of space-time fairies. She is recruiting you if you want to do it, but also you don't have to feel guilty if you don't. That's why your higher self stated that in the beginning of like, it's your choice, it's your decision. They're going to be fine.
Okay.
Okay. But if that's something that would bring you joy, do it. Right? Be a mentor, be a guide. And it's not like there's a certain amount of people you got to reawaken or activate. We just do it one at a time. Right. And that's if you have the drive to do it. Okay. So we're going to talk about something else here. So when I looked at your collective of different incarnations or past lives, as they're known, I was asking you if there's any energetic trauma or cords that need to be released. And it was kind of muddled a little bit when I was looking. And one of the reasons is your higher self wanted me to ask you, why do you want to know what traumas or energetic cords are back there with your other incarnations? And there's no right or wrong. It's more just what's the intention up under there.
Because I'm wondering if whatever happened in my past lives is playing out in my current life right now, in a sense. And also, like, I'm not sure if um I'm just wondering if healing that, like, if would help me in this life with the traumas that I've experienced in this life as well. And I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
like I don't know. There's something that I feel like something happened in my past lives, that like something tragic, whatever it was, and somehow it's playing out in this lifetime, and I'm not sure what it is. Like, I feel like there's like a strong block or a strong trauma that is like holding, aside from me holding myself back and the things that I've experienced. I feel like there's something that's strongly holding me back, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, like it runs deeper than things that
Yeah.
your children experienced. Okay. So I had a feeling that's what it was. And when I asked your higher self, okay, are there any specific things that we need to look at? One of the things that she said was the fear of being seen, perceived, being found out. And I asked her why. So she told me that you have actually been a fairy in a lot of different incarnations, like multitudes of incarnations. You carry a lot of that energy in your field. And in a lot of those incarnations, fairies were hunted and killed.
Okay.
And she said that is why there's a lot of quote unquote fairies in this incarnation that have locked that information deep down within themselves because they're worried about being found.
Okay.
Or found out, right? And when I found my fairy incarnation and then I started unlocking all those things within myself, I was like, oh my gosh, my whole entire life makes sense now. Like everything in my life is making sense. And people all the time after I had that realization, people all the time tell me, oh my God, you look like a fairy. But they don't mean my appearance. They do to a little bit, but they mean like my soul. And there was this one lady, my neighbor, she was like, can I ask you a question? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, are you a fairy? And I was like, yes, because I just thought she was like a regular like 3D person, right? And she was like, I knew it. She was like, I knew you were a fairy. And I was like, oh, you saw me? And she was like, yeah, I saw you. So it's an energetic form that we carry about us. It's not just like, hey, we have wings and things like that, right? That people can see. But even in just people being able to see that energy around you, it's scary for a lot of people because we have that kind of ancestral trauma back there that is trying to keep us hidden and showing our authentic selves, which is doing a lot of damage. It's not doing a lot of damage for the earth, but earth, plants, trees, animals, fungi, all those things are not receiving the healing that they could because there's so many fairies that are lost.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Okay. Part of the reason that you have that wound in this incarnation is because of those things that have happened in the past. So that might also counteract with your confidence of wanting to go start all of these things because we're worried about being found out. Like we're having to mask ourselves, like our true authentic self to like fit into this like specific context of like what a human should be within capitalism. And like trying to like mold ourselves to be successful.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm yeah, it's like,
Right.
what the heck am I supposed to do as this human? Like that's really how I feel sometimes, like right now. Like
Well, you have so many gifts and talents and abilities, and you think outside of the box, and you're very intelligent. And then you also combat authoritative figure, not combat, but like combat authoritative figures that are like, that are not, that like are just spewing BS and are not intentional and are, manipulative and stuff. You're just like, I'm not about this. I'm not doing this. Well, that triggers people. Okay, because you're sitting over here and you're like, let me show you what I really can do. You're a very like magical fairy-esque being, right? And if that gets out, there's a big fear of persecution. Okay, right?
yeah.
Even if it's just something your soul knows. Okay, so your higher self was saying that there are or in Cyprus, we're saying there's so many people on the planet craving to get back to their magic, and us living in this time and space right now is a really great time to start helping people reawaken to that because of social media, because there's power in numbers and banding together, and we don't have the same type of persecution propensity that we have in the past. There's so many people now that are awake and they're like down and we're not dealing with the, all this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So she wants to tell you that if you do decide to go down this path, it will not be a representative of those things that have happened in the other incarnations. That would be you don't have to, okay, again, but you would also be clearing a lot of other of your timelines. Like, I don't like to call it negative karma because it's not of their own doing. It's just things that have happened to them in the past. This would be a very healing thing for all of them collectively. But if you don't do it, there'll be another version of you that does.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But that also kind of lets you know why you're so different from everybody too.
Okay.
Fairies are very different than the majority of people.
Really? Why?
Because they have connections to the old ways, the ancient ways, and they don't work within like societal programming and capitalism, and like they haven't been deeply as programmed because they have those more ancient roots to them. So they're like, you're not gonna get me. Okay, like not today. Okay, like you don't succumb to those things. You're not as easily duped because you know the truth, and so you stick out more and you fit in less. Okay. But that's why, because of your ancient roots that you have.
Okay.
So this is where your higher self is saying, like, hey, we're going to have to probably blaze our own trail in some type of capacity. Or find something that, if we do end up working for a company, we need to find something maybe that has a similar soul mission and a soul path as being a steward, like some type of like program that's like in environmentalism or helping the community, or just something that is doing good for the planet intentionally, because that is a way that you could work alongside a company and still feel like yourself and still be able to authentically present yourself. If you don't go down this fairy realm, okay, let's just take that off the table. We don't do that, okay?
Okay.
Okay. We need to find something that is doing good for the world, because then that would make us feel at home within that position and not be so like grading against who we are at our core.
Okay.
So like again with animal and environmentalism, a clothing company that uses like recycled materials or something like that, just something that inspires you.
Okay.
Go after, right?
Okay.
Okay. Questions about that?
Um, as far as what? This is the first
Just
one.
anything that we've talked about thus far, or more specifically about maybe those fears of being seen.
Um, well, like, okay, so like as far as like the fears of being seen, like how do I push past that?
How to push past that. One is finding places that are in alignment with our core essence of wanting to do good for the world and being celebrated for that instead of demonized. That doesn't have to be necessarily with your job. It could also be a volunteer project that you get involved in, because when you're around your people and they lift you up and support you, one, it helps you rebuild trust with people, because right now there's not a lot. But that's also because you haven't been around your people. So we have to find where good-hearted people are who are working towards a better world and better communication and better community, because you will be praised there. You will be seen for your actual gifts and talents and your intelligence and what you have to offer. But we have to actively put ourselves in those places and spaces to experience that. And that will also give you the more fuel and motivation to put yourself out there more, because you're like, oh, I am needed. Because right now, to be honest with you, it sounds like you feel like you're a lost sheep.
I do.
Like the rainbow sheep, or I like to call them. I'm just the lost sheep out here. I got no support. Nobody understands me.
I do. Like it's frustrating because it's one thing like even within my family or within the few friends that I got, but it's like even like I've come to realize that even in the spiritual community, you can feel alone in there too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And people can't understand you because you may be still completely different from what they're used to or what they understand.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, like like why am I here?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Like why am I here?
Yes. So that's why your higher self, I think all this stuff is coming up too, of like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in spirituality, but like you said, you can feel alone. So now we have a little bit more parameters and guidance of, okay, well, I know that I really enjoy things having to do with the Fae realm. Like we can find that within spirituality at least, okay, and get involved like with whatever that looks like online. Okay, online groups, online. There's people that host like fairy healing circles or like or fairy like workshops to help you remember these facets of yourself. Oh yeah, there's people that like only specialize in fairy healing and fairy activations, just like with dragons or unicorns or angels. There's people that solely work in that lane. So those are places that you can start finding those. I can also send you some things. Okay. And then in your actual community, like your physical community, your higher self is really pushing for, we need to get involved in some type of volunteer project, either that has to do with being outside or with animals or something that we would have been doing in these other incarnations as well. Because that's where your people are going to be at.
Okay.
You're going to resonate and connect with them because y'all have similar souls. Because you're stewards. I can rock with a steward person. It doesn't matter like what, you know, like it doesn't matter like the differences, like the 3D differences. It's like like, wow, you're a beautiful human being. You know what I mean? Like you're awesome for doing all this, you know what I mean? Or like working with like I really love working with kids and like volunteering for things like that because when I love kids, but I also love people who also love kids because I know they're good people and they're intentional. Right. So that's what your higher self is like. We need to be around more people like that, even if it's like they don't have our, not everybody has to be spiritual woo woo.
Yeah.
We can just find some people that are just really good people trying to do good work out in the world. That's going to light you back up and make you actually want to be here again. Like refuel the like, okay, Earth isn't that bad. Okay. Like,
Okay.
it's not just me out here. Like there's other people that are cool too. Okay. But that's going to help with your fears of being seen because you just haven't had any examples of people that see you, the real you, and celebrate you for that.
I don't even think I've seen the real me, so I don't even understand that.
Sure, and you can find yourself through doing that too, because that's a beautiful thing when you let people reflect back your best qualities and traits to you instead of just telling you what's wrong with you all the time, right? Or telling you you're too hypersensitive or you know whatever, right? It is really nice to have those external reflections back to self, but they don't come knocking at your door.
Okay.
You got to go and find places to be around people like that. Or like a hiking group. I don't know if you like to hike. It's kind of hot outside right now, but just something outdoorsy.
I don't know. I have to find that. Surprisingly, it's like I like the outdoors, but I'm not really an outdoors person. But so
Sure, and there's a lot of different things that you could do outdoors too. It doesn't always have to be like hiking. There's like there's a lot of different things that you can get into, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we finish up? Other than that, I will say, other than the fear of being seen, I didn't see a lot of other major things that need to be looked at right now because as we go throughout different chapters in our life, different things are presented. Like, oh, this is time for you to start working on this thing with these other incarnations. Right now, it's just the fears of being seen. That's all that I see in your energy field. That's trauma coming up from different incarnations. Your higher self is like, there's not anything right now that needs to be worked on other than that. But that is coming forward because you were also experiencing that in this incarnation. So you healing that in this one is going to help them heal over here and vice versa because there is a whenever one of the incarnations learns something, it helps the other.
Okay.
And vice versa. So you working on feeling better about being seen is going to help heal those other incarnations back here. And as they're healing, they're going to help you heal in this time over here too.
Okay. Can you like so what do you exactly mean by as far as being seen?
Being seen is, well, that can mean a couple different things. Being seen is we are afraid that we are going to be persecuted or demonized or made fun of or bullied if we show our true authentic self, if we're not masking. We can also be afraid to be seen because we had a lot of trauma and PTSD when we were a child, and it makes us scared to show people our emotions or to be vulnerable or to be authentic because we're afraid that we're going to be hurt physically, spiritually, emotionally, or mentally. We are afraid to go after our dreams and our goals and our desires because we feel like people are going to find us to be an imposter, that we're not intelligent enough, that we're not funny enough, or that we don't have the abilities that we need to do the things that we want to do. So it's really seeing yourself, first of all, for your own gifts and talents and abilities and what you're good at, and working on your self-concept and your self-love and your self-confidence. Because if you don't see that within yourself, other people can't see that either. We attract what we see within self and what we're experiencing within self. But then sometimes we don't want to show those things to other people because we have a mistrust of others and we think that they're going to hurt us. So we hide all of these facets of self. That's what your higher self was like, hey, that's kind of what's happening with these different incarnations, because they did show themselves and then they got hurt in those times and spaces. The one that you are living in right now is a little bit different. This is where we have a lot more sovereignty than we have in back history, in these other incarnations, right? And we have more ways to band and tribe together because of social media. And we're able to group up a lot easier and find one another a lot easier. So there's a lot of forward movement and progress that you can make just on your own individual level, even if you're not helping other people, with healing those deep-seated trauma wounds of fears of being seen. You will do a lot for your other incarnations, you just going on your own process of this because of the time and space that you live in. That's probably one of the reasons you decided to incarnate during this time, is to clear up a lot of that incarnative trauma. But if you have, sometimes if you have a lot of incarnations that have experienced a trauma wound, like the fear of being seen, you will incarnate with a childhood that causes you to have trauma wounds with the fear of being seen, so that you learn how to heal it in this lifetime because you have better circumstances set up for you than the other incarnations did. So when you heal it here, and I know it doesn't seem like that, but when you heal it here, it does the generational and ancestral timeline healing for them back there, because you're the version that gets to be successful and thrive in those areas in this lifetime. It's almost like what is she saying? Reprimands is not the right word. It's like the opposite of that. It's like it's like, hey, I'm the one, like I got to succeed in this lifetime. I got to thrive in this area. Like I can bring healing to y'all. Like I learned how to do it. Because time is not linear. I know this is getting real woo-woo, but timelines are not linear. In the Akashic records, everything is happening all at one time. So you healing with those things in this one, because you have more optimal circumstances, teaches them how to go back and do healing in their timelines. It absolves them. It helps them liberate and free themselves things that have happened in theirs.
Okay.
I know you probably have more questions than you came in with, but just remember your higher self and Cypress were like, hey, all we need you to do right now is really focus on getting as much Fae energy into your field as you can. Finding some things that bring you joy and happiness, like really like put the trauma stuff down for a second. Okay. That's not helping you. That's doing more damage right now, because you don't have enough energy to do the trauma work. Your central nervous system is like so overactivated, and the trauma is activating it. And it's just like reactivating it like continuously. This is where they're saying like, hey, fun and joy and finding some peace can be just as healing. Like, yes, we do need to do the shadow work and the trauma work, but we can't do that from a place of just being just so wildly activated. But at the same time, I know it's difficult to find joy and peace when you are activated. So it's kind of like trying to
Yeah.
balance those scales. So that's where
Yeah.
this like, hey, let's focus on all this phase stuff right now, because even if you don't go down those paths, it will at least help you remember these facets of yourself and that magic that you hold within.
Okay.
And that multidimensional version of you, which you can feel at more peace, because they said you've never really felt at home before. The fairy world tree and all the fairies, that's a home that you can feel inside, because you've been one for a long, 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 long time. So reawakening that within you will give you that sense of feeling like you're at home. When I found that incarnation within me, that was the home that I was looking for. And that's something that I could continue to carry with me. Finding some type of project to get involved in with people to like rebuild your trust in those areas, and maybe getting a job with animals, because we would enjoy that, and it would be, I wouldn't say chill, but it would be more chill than working with people for the time being, just to heal your central nervous system and let you get through this next chapter of your life. What was your biggest takeaway today?
That I'm a fairy.
Yeah. I think that you knew that. I think that you knew that, like, deep down inside.
I mean, I think I knew, but like, I mean, I feel like I've been several things in
Sure.
different times. But yeah, I was surprised that the fairy thing was like the biggest thing that came through. To be honest with you, I honestly thought you were gonna say a dragon or something.
Well, and that's not to say that you don't have those facets to yourself. And
no, but
this might be coming through because of the chapter that you're in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I just the biggest takeaway is like just, I guess, finding what makes me happy, whatever that's supposed to mean. And I guess my starting point is trying to see something with animals. finding something with animals, or something along those lines, I guess. Just finding something.
Yeah. Or going to go find, or you could even go find a garden to work at, or even the plant section at Homes or Lowe's or Home Depot, or working at a garden. Like, that would be really incongruent with your soul too, because we could just talk to the plants.
Okay.
Just taking care of plants. Okay. Plants all day. Or maybe like a florist. Something that has to do with plants and animals, because that's what you were doing for so many incarnations. Like, that's going to feel really good to your soul, and it's going to be chill, and we're not having to talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because like, I swear I do not have a green thumb at all. So it's that's weird that's, that comes through, because I feel like I kill off plants more than I see.
Well, maybe that's some remembrance. The cypress was like, hey, you need to go to the world tree, so I can teach you these things and help you remember.
I mean, I kill off plants that aren't supposed to actually die. So like...
You know what? Can I tell you something funny though? I killed every plant that I ever owned until I found my fairy incarnation and started delving into that. And now I have all of these beautiful plants back here that have been alive for quite a long time.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I will say that. Okay. I am going to send you your oracle cards and your crystal grid, and then I'll send you the replay when it gets done processing. And if anything else comes in the future, let me know.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. And then I'll send you some fairy resources as well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. Have a magical day. Okay.